family. Mandy here to answer your frequently asked questions. But before we get started with that, I want to start by celebrating because I love to celebrate and have fun. And you guys, I'm celebrating you. I'm celebrating the energy and the curiosity and the participation and the engagement that you brought to Monday's training. You guys were phenomenal. And even those of you who watched the replay, I saw your comments. Really, really great. Thank you so much for participating. I've also seen you guys are participating in the community and doing the exercise of sharing your story where you weren't resourceful and you found the resources. Amazing stuff. I trust that you guys are already making excellent progress on the program, and I can't wait to connect with you next week. However, let's get started on these questions. So number one, the first question is, what if you're trying to help someone and you do not understand or relate to elements of their global belief system? For example, racism or opposing political views. Great question. Thank you so much for bringing it. I would first ask the question, what are you trying to help them with, and how do their global beliefs that you're not aligned with tie into it? For example, if you're helping someone with a health goal or a relationship issue or time management or motivation, how do those beliefs play into it, or do they at all? Probably not. And I can tell you that I've coached so many people that have been able to make an impact, and I guarantee you we didn't have all the same global beliefs. And Tony, think about Tony. He's coached and impacted millions of people. You can guarantee that every single one of those people that have been impacted by Tony have not had the same global beliefs. So leadership and influence really require you to step back from your personal beliefs and connect with the other person's model of the world. It doesn't require you to agree. It really only requires you to understand without your emotion attached. And remember, you can't influence somebody when you're judging them. Remember I said that? And so you want to make sure that you're not judging them. When you're looking at someone's global beliefs and thinking as you're trying to impact them that I don't agree with that, then that is a form of judgment. So you want to make sure that you step back from that judgment and take a neutral position, because that's what leadership is. It's being able to take a neutral position, right? You can always find a way to connect with someone and influence them when you're committed. And so you just need to search. You just need to ask the right questions, ask more questions, find the things that you can connect with and focus on how you can utilize them to make an impact. Okay, wonderful. Great question. Now, question number 2, can you explain the difference between pre-frame, reframe, and deframe? That's another great question. Pre-frame. Okay, pre-frame, think of pre-frame as planting seeds. So you're planting the seeds. You're telling people in advance what to pay attention to and what it means. And Tony says that this is actually really the most powerful way to influence, because you're setting them up and their mind up in advance what to look for. And the great thing is you can actually set people up for even more success. If you saw my training the other day, which I think all of you have, you saw an example of pre-framing. I told you that you would receive massive value from this program, from the training in the program, and that you were going to learn the tools and you're going to master the tools to do what Tony does and be able to make that kind of impact. Remember that? So your brain is now wired to look for the gold, to take those great notes in the book of gold. And your mind is linked to becoming as impactful as Tony. And the beauty of it is that because you were pre-framed, you're going to likely get even more value and impact from the program. How cool is that? Yeah. And now the reframe, the second one is reframe. What things mean to you is always determined by what you compare and contrast them to. So reframing is really taking that comparing and contrasting that we automatically do anyway and putting it in a positive frame. So to be truly happy, you've got to find a way to enjoy anything. And Tony says, nothing means anything but the meaning we give it, right? And remember, I shared on Monday that the language we use to describe our experience becomes our experience. And our reframe is simply changing the language in order to change the meaning and have a more empowered experience. So it's really about changing someone's perspective by changing the meaning they're giving it. So think of it as like the angle you're looking at it, you say the camera angle, right? Or the filter that you're looking at it through. That's what reframing is doing, is changing that. So there's a couple of different types of reframes that Tony's going to talk about in day 5. And I have a few examples I can share with you. One is the story I shared about public speaking. Remember, I shared the story about becoming a public speaker, and I changed my language from nervous to excited. So I reframed the experience for myself from something that was uncomfortable to something that was fun. I love fun. And one of my favorite Tony quotes is that supports the reframe is, you guys probably know this one: life is happening for you, not to you, or life is happening for us, not to us. I love that quote because it takes you out of that. Some of us people can tend to get into a victim mindset. It's happening to me, rather than an empowered leader mindset. And that's what that quote does. It's like when you reframe life like that, when you see that it's actually happening for you, you seek the gifts, you seek the lessons, rather than feeling like it's happening to you and you don't have control. So then you have more control of your life. I have a 19-year-old daughter with a very strong will, and I related to Tony's story in the program about the father and the daughter, because my daughter has that strong will. And sometimes as a parent, that can be really challenging because she pushes up against me. She does that. Like she'll definitely push my boundaries a lot. And she has since she was a little girl. And over the years, my reframe has always been, well, she's a leader, right? And it might not be comfortable for me right now, but I know at some point being that strong, having that strong will and being that leader is going to serve her. And it has, it did when she was a child with her choices that she made. And, she did great in school because she was a leader. She didn't get caught up in peer pressure. And so I've seen it work for her. And then there's some powerful questions you can ask to help someone reframe. I love these. I use these in coaching all the time. What can be great about it if you chose to see it that way? So it's maybe a situation that's not ideal. What could be great about it? Or what are the gifts in it? And you can ask yourself these questions too when you're up against something that feels frustrating or feels less than ideal for you. What are the gifts in it? Or what else could be true? Maybe you have a belief or a thought and it's disempowering. You could ask that question. What else could be true? And then your brain starts to look for a different alternative, right? And to look at it in a more positive light. Beautiful. A few things are when you're doing the reframe, you want to make sure it's interrupting a pattern through questions. You want to ask a lot of questions. And then you also want to make sure that the reframe is aligned with that person's values or beliefs. So that's a really important element to it as well, because that's when you're going to have an impact. Now, the D-frame is really about completely destroying how someone's evaluating something or their frame of reference for it. So maybe it's someone complaining about something trivial, like my meal was terrible, or it was cold, or the service was bad. And then you walk outside of the restaurant and you point out a woman who's on the street needing money for her children, or you talk about the woman I see outside. There's a lot of times I'll come out of, say, a Whole Foods or a grocery store, and there's a mom who's got to feed her kids and she has a sign asking for money. So those are some ways that you can deframe someone's reference, and you think, what am I complaining about? So they just absolutely change the way they're looking at it. Now, the outcome when you are using any of these framing tools is really to shift someone's focus to get them into a state of change. Okay. And then the third question is, can you give me an example of an effective pattern interrupt? Another great question. Pattern interrupts are an important part of creating change. And as we know, change is creating resources where there aren't any. So pattern interrupts are really about bringing resources from somewhere else. So any pattern that's continually interrupted or broken is eventually going to change. And there are 3 different ways that you can interrupt a pattern. There's someone's physiology. You could say, take a deep breath, or stand up, or take a drink of water. If I have a client who's on the phone and they're upset and I'm having a hard time getting them out of it, I'll say, are you standing or sitting? How about you stand up? And that automatically breaks their pattern. Or how about you take a drink of water, or take a deep breath? And that's how you can interrupt someone's physiology. Another one is the second pattern is interrupting their focus. So if you interrupt someone's focus, then that's really shifting their focus in the moment. I was doing a virtual event, and Tony's trainer, Tad, did a beautiful pattern interrupt that I'll never forget. There was a woman that he was talking to, and she was crying. And behind her, in her room, behind her was this beautiful painting. And Tad listened to her. And then he just, in the middle of something she was saying, he goes, "Oh, that's a really cool painting behind you. Tell me about that." And it completely shifted her focus. And then she got back into whatever she was saying, and she wasn't crying anymore. It was awesome. And then the last one is the pattern of language. And this is where you can take those framing questions that we ask and interrupt someone's language by asking them questions. Really, that in itself is the simplest and most impactful way to interrupt someone's pattern, is really through questions. And I explained a lot of those questions in the framing question. Beautiful. So and now I'm going to answer some personal questions. What's your favorite way to transform your physiology? Besides my Peloton, you had asked about Make Your Move. I do a lot of different things to transform my physiology. And a lot of that is like, I have a rebounder behind me here, so I'll jump on the rebounder. I'll do heart breathing. I love heart breathing. I'll walk around. I'll take a deep breath. I'll stretch. Those are different ways that I can interrupt and transform my physiology in the moment. And then another personal question that you asked was, can you share your personal positive reinforcement celebrations? Yes. So number one is I do the priming every morning. I love priming, and priming has the celebration, the gratitude piece, right? You do the breathing, and then you do the gratitude. And so every morning I start out my day with gratitude. And then at the end of the day, I have this ritual with one of my fellow coaches where we share our celebrations for our gratitude for the day. So we send each other 10 things that we're grateful for. And so those are the ways that I celebrate and share positive reinforcement. Now, I'm going to be back. Thank you for listening today. I'm going to be back next Friday, August 13th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, to answer more of your questions live for the Q&A, the AMA, the Ask Me Anything. Sorry, easy for me to say. And make sure you keep posting your distinctions, post your distinctions, and support each other here in this community. Any questions that you have regarding creating lasting change, you want to hashtag AMA in the group. We'll catch it for next week. And I look forward to seeing all of you soon. Have a blessed and beautiful weekend.